everyone, it's Jean from Inky Owl Studio. Good to see you today. I hope your day is going good. I am going to now continue to work on this little cloth folio journal thing. Don't know what to call it. And I think in the last video, I did mention it in the description box, but I think I forgot to verbally mention that the idea for this, or the basic idea of this, came from Susie at the Shabby Soul. And I linked her video then, and I'll link it again this time. And she does all things Tim Holtz, so she's really fun to watch. So anyway, she did this about a year ago, and I'm just improvising or just adding those little things that, might vary from her a little bit. But the basic idea did come from her. It's a very creative idea. So anyways, we're going to make the pouch in the center of our folio here, and the pouch is going to contain a little mini journal for us to write in. And we're going to have to make a sandwich again, just like we made cloth, and then the batting, and then the cloth. Only this time I'm not going to use a real stiff fabric like I did in here for the inside. I'm going to use two basically cotton pieces. So the outside piece is going to be this Tim Holtz fabric here. Let's see, that's not the corner I wanted. Where's the corner? Yeah, here's the corner. It's going to be this Tim Holtz fabric, and then the second piece of cloth is just going to be a plain muslin, because this is not going to show, and there's no need to put in expensive fabric when no one's going to see it, right? So now you can measure, definitely can measure how big to cut each piece. I'm not even going to do that, just because it doesn't have to be perfect. And the only rule or boundary here is that you want these two pieces to be just a little smaller than your cover, just a little bit. All right, you want it to be about, this much, like 1/8 of an inch smaller than your outside cover, and that's so that it will tuck on the inside a little better. Now I went ahead and I took two pieces of cloth at the same time. I took a muslin, I took the Tim Holtz fabric. Tim Holtz fabric is cut a little straighter than mine, and let me just straighten this out right here. Just want to make the two edges. I want the two pieces to match. Is what I want to do, and so I'm just gonna cut there just like that. So when you buy a fat quarter, and if you're not familiar with buying fabric, a fat quarter means that you get, instead of getting a long piece of fabric, because a quarter of a yard is about like 9.5 inches, and the width of fabric is usually 42 to 44 inches. So instead of getting this long piece that's only 9.5 inches wide and 40 some inches long, you end up with a piece that's 18 by 18 inches. And that is still a quarter of a yard. It's just cut in a different way. And so it's kind of a nice square. And I find, for journal making anyways, I can get by with the quarter of a yard, and some places don't cut that quarter, so I get the quarter of a yard, but I do like working with the 18 by 18 inch. I think it just gives me more options. So that's what this is, just to let you know, in case you were curious. So I'm going to take these two pieces at one time, because I'm lazy and I want it all done once. But you can definitely cut them separate. And so this might be how close I want it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go twice the distance on a short edge and a long edge than what I wanted. So say I wanted just, let me try to get these lined up here. Say I just wanted 1/8 of a yard difference between the two. I will just kind of put like 1/4 of a yard difference, just a little more than what I really want in there. All right, and on this side and on two sides, a short and a long. And then I'm just going to pin it like this. Okay, so it kind of stays down. Oops. Well, why aren't I getting the pins? There we go. And then I'm going to turn it over like this, and I'm going to cut at the edge. And of course you don't want to cut your cover, you just want to cut those 2 layers of fabric. So you carefully cut up next to that. And again, I'm not particularly trying to be perfect about it. And then when I get done, then I have a piece that fits inside the edges pretty well. All right, and there is a little bit uneven, so I'm looking down here that there's a little bit that needs to be cut off here, and that's, you know, it's perfectly fine. I can just cut that up just to make sure it kind of fits inside. So that's, just wanted to show you, don't have to really stress out in cutting it. It's just that if it is a little smaller, it will just tuck in better, but if it ends up being bigger, that's no problem either. Things can stick out, right? Now, let's get our batting. All right, I went ahead and cut out a piece of batting, and I just merely took the top of this, one of these fabric pieces, and I just cut around it. So now I have the batting and the backing and the front. Also, the backing, you may want to fold it in half and press it to create this little line here, so that when you go to sew it into the bigger journal, it'll be easier to see where the middle is at. It's just a way to get the middle quickly. So you may want to iron that and press it, or if you don't have an iron, don't want to get it out, you can also fold it in half and just take like a burnishing tool and just keep pressing it over. You can use your fingernail. Somehow you can get this little crease down here so that it'll, you know where the middle is at. So you can do that with the lining on the inside. Anyhow, so now that we have this pouch ready to go, I want to do something with this pouch before I sew it in. And I have got this photograph from the Graphics Fairy, or actually it's a postcard, digital postcard. And I want to put this in here. And so I have 2 ways. The easy way to do this would be just to sew this in. Just sew around. I would take, probably would just take the batting on the top and I would sew it in. And that would be the easy peasy way, definitely. But I want to do something a little different. And I'll just take you along and show you what that is. Something different. I would like to make like a frame out of the fabric for this photo, and so I'm going to just take the top layer of the pouch. So when this gets sewn in, it's going to be sewn in, it'll be laying this way and sewn in. This is going to be what the front side, and this is going to be the back side. And of course it doesn't matter which side you do this in, but I'm going to do it on the front side. So it'll be to the left of your rectangle. I am going to turn it the other way around. I'm going to put my photograph face down like this, kind of in the middle, kind of decide where that is, and I can just finger press that a little bit and find that middle line is about right there. So it's pretty good. That's pretty good in the middle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew right along the edge, probably like just inside that edge, right along here is where I'll be sewing it down. And well, that ended up being easy peasy. Yep, it very easy to do. So I sewed all the way around. Now when I cut out this piece of ephemera, I did cut it a little bit, about this much wider than what I want. So I did do that, and I distressed the inside, taking that white off. I did do that, so as much of the picture will come through. Now I'm going to do my idea, so we'll just have to hold our breaths to see how well my idea comes out, right? So I'm going to just get, now I probably should have done this before I sewed. Yep, I should have done this before I sewed. There you go. So before you sew the photograph or the ephemera in, snip it and make a hole. We can do it, but I just don't want to scratch my photo here. Probably, maybe I should be doing it down here somewhere. There we go. Now I'm going to start cutting out, but I don't want to cut at the stitching line. I want to leave, let me hold it closer, I'm sorry. I want to leave, you know, about 1/4 of an inch in the beginning anyways, around it. And I might find that was too narrow, but being that I've never done this before, I'm doing it live. Well, as live as I can, I guess, on a YouTube recording. We'll just cut her, and I'm not really trying to be too careful about making it perfect and even. I'm just eyeing it up, coming around and doing that. All right, so now we have sort of a ragged area, and I'm going to fray it out here a little bit. Okay, I just kept pulling threads. I might cut off some of these longer ones here and there, but I'm still going to leave some of these threads hanging around here and there. There we go, just like so. Alright, so you see it looks kind of raggy there. I really like that look. Okay, kind of a shabby, raggy look around there. So what else could I have done different? I think what I probably would do next time, I'm going to use a darker thread to go around here. That's probably what I would do. So yeah, I got some other ideas I could do with this. I love the idea. It's good. It did turn out okay. You know, sometimes you just don't know, but I do like this. But you know, like I say, if you just want to sew it on top, easy peasy way, it still looks very nice that way. All right, so now that we've got that in there, now the reason why I'm not making any pockets on this pouch area is because the little journal is going to fit inside of here, and I didn't want to take up any more real estate and make the journal kind of hard to get in and out or whatever, so I wasn't going to make any pockets to stuff. And now we're ready to take our batting, our lining, and the over part here. Just like this. Now you can see that sewing this, of course, made the fabric creep in just a little bit and show a little bit more of the batting. But I think it's fine. I mean, I like this uneven, shabby look. You know, it's what I'm going for. So that does not at all concern me. Let me get that on here. Right. Now I'm going to sew all the way around this pouch, and probably sew about, you know, about this far in, like a 1/4 of an inch, maybe even a little less than that. I'm going to sew that just to make sure that I catch both fabrics. So let me examine here to make sure the fabrics are lined up. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sew that all the way around the perimeter. I almost forgot. What I want to do before I sew around the perimeter is I want to take the batting and the top layer and take away the lining and sew over that stitching so that I anchor this onto the batting. And I think that would be a really good idea to do that. And then of course, don't forget to put your pins in. That's very important. When you do that, kind of keep it straight. So you'll want to pin it, you'll want to sew around that stitching, and then I will put it onto the backing and pin it and then sew it all the way around. So that's what I forgot to show you. All right, I just wanted to show you that I've sewed it down onto the batting, and I like it because it anchors it quite nicely in there. But when you make your sandwich and sew around it, there's probably going to be, like excess sticking out, because when I did all of this right here, it just and all this cutting, it kind of made the fabric more narrow than what it originally was. Kind of creeps up a little bit around there, and it's okay. And so what I did was I basically followed my decorative fabric around, making sure that I attached that to the batting. Okay, flipped it over, making sure the lining got pretty well caught, and it did in most places. It didn't right here, but that's okay. In the corner it won't show, but basically it was caught inside. And so then I'm just going to go around and trim off a little bit of this excess, and I don't mind some of it peeking out really. I'm just going to trim that off a little bit. Now these two seams here are going to be sewn together. Okay, well, that's not going to be a perfect rectangle. And like I say, this is Shabby Chic, and we're not here to make things perfect. All right, now we've gotten this far. Really like the way that looks. That turned out. Now we're going to be putting this into the cover. And here's our cover. Just going to lay it inside like so. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little crease here from the Iron Maid when I press this together. So I can see where sewing it down the middle is going to be. Right, it's just down twice there. And now I'm going to sew. I'm going to make sure that these covers is flapped back like this and out of my way. I'm going to put these two sections together and pin them, or clip them, however you want to. Well, that one did go in. There we go. We're going to pin them, or you can use these little handy clips. I do tend to like these probably even better. You're going to sew just on this side and across the bottom, because we want this to be open, of course. And I will go and get that done. And now we have the pouch all ready to be filled. Okay, alrighty, I like it. And now I'm going to talk about making the journal to go inside here. So hello, Mr. Ruler, you turned up. All right. We don't want the journal to be taller, of course. Well, I don't. Maybe you do. I want the journal to fit inside. So I'll measure from the stitching down here up to within a 1/4 of an inch at the top. So what I'm seeing is about 6, I'm going to call it 6.5 inches. 6.5 inches is right here. So, or I could call it 6 3/4. Yeah, I could say it's 6 3/4. So we'll say it's going to be 6 3/4 tall. Now the width of it is not necessarily from stitching to seam, because when you bulk it up with paper, it's going to take up room this way. Okay, so it's going to eat up some of that width measurement inside of here. It's going to eat that up a little bit. And it might have to be a bit of a guess. It's going to have to be that way for me, but I'm going to guess, you know, the thickness of that little journal might be a 1/2 inch in that range. So I want it to be an inch less. This is my guess, okay? I'm not an engineer. So we will see when I start making it how right I am. So I am going to initially make it an inch more narrow than what this measurement is. So this measurement here is 5 1/4. I'm going to make it 4 3/4. That's going to be my width. So I'm going to go 6 3/4 and 4 3/4. I ended up with a 4.5 by 6 3/4 inch journal. Of course, I had to cut the paper at 9 inches for that 4.5, and that ended up being just perfect for this little pouch, because there's still a little bit of room to add a few things to the journal on the inside. There's a little bit room left, just a pinch. So, and then the pages were 14 pages folded in half, which came to 56 pages both sides. And I put a little pocket here on one of the covers. So that is the little journal that fits in here. So you can see where this is the width of the pouch and how, you know, it was a good inch that I took off to make it more narrow to fit in. Now to close the journal up, I decided to take this doily, and it's a cute little doily, little eyelet doily with all these little holes. So I found a hole and I put an eyelet in it. Isn't that cute? And I'm going to do the same with the one with the hole in the back here that kind of matches. Now, you know, you don't have to, you can make your own hole, but I just thought, being that there is already a hole made, it might be kind of interesting for it to be in that place. So your eyelet, you know, sometimes it'll fit, but most of the time it won't fit exactly. So what I had to do with the other one, and I'll do with this one, is I just snipped the border just a little bit, just to make that hole a little tiny bit wider, and just kept fiddling with it. Of course, the one snip did it. So that little guy, he's all ready to put in. And I laid him down over here. Here we go. But you can make your own hole. And in a minute we'll do that. And so I just took my other little tie, threaded it through, and this is sari silk. Threaded it through and just made a knot on this side. Just made a little knot, just enough so it won't come through, like that. And I think what I'm going to do is also glue just right down the spine, glue it to the spine. I do believe that's what I'll do in the end. I'll let you know next video what I decide. But that way you have this cute little closure. Yeah, I really like that. That turned out very cute, very sweet. Now to make your own without an eyelet fabric, if you just have something to poke it with, And you can use like an awl to do that with. And you take your piece of fabric and you just poke in your hole, right? Of course, again, it's not going to be big enough, so you can just start snipping a little bit, just little tiny snips around that hole, you know, until your eyelet fits through it. You can also fold your fabric and just put like a little nip in like that, and then start working with tiny nips all the way around in a little circle, and then try out your eyelet, which I need to get, and you can just keep trying the eyelet until it fits, and it shouldn't take much. I mean, my nips are tiny, they're very tiny. Don't want them to be too big, or else the fabric won't hug around the cylinder of the eyelet there. So you just want to take tiny snippets until it gets big enough. So you can do it that way and put eyelets in fabric. Now I'm going to just slip this inside, and as you can see, it fits quite nicely. It's in there. I have my camera kind of low, but it's in there. And there's still a little bit room to put a little bit more in the journal. And so that's why I didn't do anything on the pockets, just to give it as much room as possible inside there. So that's how that turned out. Thank you so much for hanging with me and being patient as I do all these experiments and all these different ideas that sometimes occur to me as I'm creating it. So I'll be back, and the next time we get together, we'll be doing the flip here and making some ephemera for the pockets. And maybe the video after that will show how we're going to do a closure on this. So we'll talk to you later. Have a crafty day. Bye.